Okay, so I'm going to go through how I compared the two heart rate sensors. Well, first of all, let me go here and show just for a recap how you get your sensor data. So you can go on Strava, pull up any of your runs. You go like training, my activities, and then you go to one of your runs here, and then you hit these three dots, and then you do export GPX. It's going to download a GPX file for you from Garmin. It's kind of the same thing. You find one of your runs right here, and then up in this corner, there's the settings, export to TCX or GPX. I have this script set up to take TCX. So if you're using my notebook, then do TCX for Garmin's, and then you go over here, and then for the file name, oh yeah, and then you'll upload these files from your downloads folder into your Google Drive, and then change this path to whatever your path is and file name that you used to upload your GPX and TCX files. So you need one of each to compare, right? Because that's what we're doing here. Um, and then what you're going to do is hit this little icon right here. Um, if it has this slash through it, that's actually good. Um, if it doesn't have the slash, click on that, and that will connect you to your drive. And you should see Drive right here. And this is your Google Drive where your files are saved. So then you just go run all, and it should go through with all these things. And if it gives you any errors, let me know. I've only tested it on my own stuff. So um, here is an example of this is just the GPX. Okay, we're just testing here. These are all the parsing files or functions. And here's my first example. So this one, definitely something weird happened here with the watch. This was the holiday half marathon. It was a 13-mile run where for the first, and I was going pretty fast the whole way, right? This was a race. So I tend to trust this a little bit more. My heart rate probably should have been in the 160s, 170s for a half marathon. So something funky was happening here where the whole first half of the race on my watch, it was saying 140s. So I kind of knew that was wrong. Um, but I couldn't see what the armband was telling me because this was linked to my phone only, so I didn't see this until afterwards. And then somehow, right at the middle of the race, like around 1 hour, it just suddenly fixed itself, and it looks fairly similar to the armband, maybe a little bit different. Um, so yeah, that was an extreme example of where the watch kind of failed, but I knew it was failing, so I don't know that it's that important. I guess it would have helped me with pacing to know exactly what my heart rate was, but I had a feeling it was in the right range in the 160s because I was kind of used to doing that pacing. So, anyways, um, I wanted to test a few more times to see if it was doing this like all the time or, if that was just a fluke. So, here's another run that I did. This one was a run where I started off slow and then went fast at the end. So this jump from low heart rate um, to higher heart rate, that was true and intentional. Um, so you can see there's these weird spikes. Sometimes the watch goes really high, sometimes it goes really low, um, where the other armband is not changing. So I'm not sure. And then here's one with the armband spikes. And yeah, so it's not clear to me. This one, the armband spikes up and the watch spikes down. So that's interesting. And then here, the armband spikes way down. So I'm not really sure which one is correct. And that's the weird thing. Um, yeah, I guess I could stop and measure my pulse naturally, but like I'm not sure how you can say which one is more accurate. So in this case, they are definitely different, and by quite a bit. Like this is probably 10 beats different, at least right here. Um, and then this histogram right here just shows the total number of measurements and how off they are. So in reality, like almost everything is within plus or minus 5 beats per minute. So I would say that's good enough for me. That's for me. I consider that accurate enough. Um, so I thought like, oh yeah, so I thought like maybe this is happening because either one of two things. Either it's because I'm bouncing around a lot during the runs, like there's a lot of bobbing and stuff and shaking, and the sensor's just not reading very well on my wrist, or because the heart rate fluctuates so wildly that there's a smoothing kind of algorithm in the watch that kind of thinks um, that your heart rate is not changing as much as it actually is, which doesn't make sense because it did detect this big shift that was the real shift right here. So anyway, so what I did next was I tried to do it on a stationary bike. Um, and the crazy thing I found out about the stationary bike, this is kind of unrelated, but um, if you do I had to do it as an elliptical workout because there's no stationary bike workout on the Garmin. But um, if you do it as a stationary bike, it doesn't actually give you one measurement every second anymore. It gives you like one every like this one is from Strava, and that one kept to like one every second. This one gave me like one third of as many measurements, like one every 3 seconds or something like that. So even though this was an hour long workout, it only came up with like 1,200 points or whatever. So I had to adjust that, and I had to match these two. I had to do some math to match these two on exactly the timestamp when the measurements were taken, and then they line up really well actually. So this was actually one of the most consistent measurements right here, where my hands weren't moving; they were just like kind of on the handlebars of the stationary bike. So there was no shaking, and you can see like the heart rate ramped up very slowly. Um, Actually, I can't even explain why it spiked up and down because I was pretty much just pedaling at I wasn't like trying to stay at the same speed, but I was just like doing a normal effort, you know, the whole time. So I see why it would like slowly ramp up. I can't really explain the spikes up and down. Maybe just subconsciously pedaling slightly faster or whatever, but um, the two measurements matched up very well. And here the average error was about 1 beat per minute, and here's the histogram where everything was like within plus or minus 2 or maybe 3. So that was super tight distribution when I was doing the stationary bike. So then I came back to doing another run. This one was I think it had a long warm up period, and then yeah, so it had like 8 miles warm up or something like that, and then it had some intervals. And this was super interesting because on the intervals, the intervals were I think 4 minutes each, 4 minutes on and like 2 or 3 minutes off, something like that. Um, so they were pretty short, but the armband picked up the increased heart rate. Like obviously my heart rate goes up pretty quick when I'm doing intervals. So I believe that within maybe like 30 seconds of starting the interval, it should be at 170 heart rate, or even looks like 180 here. So the armband picked it up really well. The watch, not so much. And I think this is what made me think it was the shaking, because like when I'm basically sprinting these intervals, the watch is shaking a lot more than the armband, which is pretty tight. The watch, I like to wear it loose, so maybe it wasn't making good contact with the sensor on my arm, or maybe it has this like smoothing algorithm that kind of smooths out the spikes. But so this is where I would say the watch is less accurate, and it might just be because I like to wear it loose. So I tried again, but yeah, but in general, I guess in general, like other than this initial part, they were pretty close. And this one, this one again, plus or minus 5 for most of the measurements. Um, oh yeah, here I was just messing around. I kind of plotted. This is my route. Um, and I plotted in color the difference on the GPS signals. So I was using the watch GPS and my phone GPS as the two different signals. And I believe the watch is actually much more accurate than the phone GPS for whatever reason. Um, okay. So then I tried to uh, do a few more runs where I kept the watch super tight. Okay. And this one was just a long, slow run. So this one didn't have the big spikes like the interval run did. And you can see this 141 is my aerobic threshold line. So you can see like most of this was below that. I did do some hills and stuff, so it spiked a few times. Um, but yeah, other than this first one, they all kind of line tracked pretty well. Yeah, there's got to be something in the watch algorithm that like makes it respond differently when you first start, because I think I find like the biggest differences are always in the first heart rate spike. So for whatever reason, like um, this one, that one not so much. This well, this one was 15 minutes in. Um, but yeah, there's always like a lot of difference at the very beginning, and then it kind of comes together better somehow. I'm not sure what that's about. Um, okay, so I think there's one more in here. It's another map. Oh, here we go. Okay, so this run, I believe, okay, this was just a long, slow run, but there were a lot of hills. So it was supposed to be zone two underneath the line, but because of these hills, I had a lot of spikes up higher. And then, like, as I got, you can see this is like 2 hours. I don't know. I didn't want to bother taking away the 0 1, but that just means day one, hour two. So after like 130, 145, my heart rate started going up. So 2 hours to 230 to, I think this whole one lasted like 240 or 250. And then this is a big hill at the end. Um, but yeah, it started to rise after that. But this one tracked again, the very beginning, not so much, but after that, it tracked really well. Um, Here it is, almost everything within like 2 beats. And then this is, I guess this is two, three, four. So pretty tight, I would say, like for a long run where there are some pretty big spikes. Um, yeah, I would say the watch to me is good enough. Oh, here I just kind of zoomed in on this same run, but spread out the x-axis so you could see a little bit better. That's the mistake at the beginning, and then maybe a little one right there where it didn't track very well on the going up the hill. And then here's another one. Yeah, it just seems like maybe the watch has a smoothing function where it doesn't react to big jumps in heart rate. So if your heart rate actually does jump up really high, the watch kind of treats that as an anomaly and doesn't show the increase until it's been at that level for a little while. That's what I'm kind of guessing. But then the opposite thing happened here, so it's kind of hard to say. And it's not like consistently behind. It's just it happens once in a while, I would say. Um, and then here's another one where the watch spiked towards the end, but the armband didn't. And then the armband spiked, but the watch didn't. And here's another comparison of, I remember in this run, this was the beginning. And so it was super tight on the GPS until here it just got kind of progressively worse. And then it was just had a little bit of offset all the way down for some reason. So yeah, um, that's all. I think if you want to run this code, all you have to do is copy this notebook into your Google Drive. upload your runs, one in TCX form and one in GPX form, um, to try it yourself. So you can either compare your heart rate readings or your GPS readings. If you suspect your GPS is really bad, you can see exactly how bad it is by doing something like this. Um, or you um, upload the TCX, GPX, and then leave the rest of it the same. You can change the title of the plot. That just changes this title right here, and then hit run, and it'll run and do it as many times as you want and compare all your runs. I just found out while I was doing this that there's actually a Strava API, so you can actually do this. You can automate this whole thing and just run it straight from your program to pull one of your runs off Strava or something like that and make it a lot simpler. But I didn't think I was going to be doing this that many times. So the one caution with this is when you have two identical runs, when you're like doing one run on your watch and then one on your phone, it counts both of them on your Strava for your miles. So it was like messing up my miles and saying I had twice as many miles every week as I actually had. And it was messing with my stats. So I didn't want to do it too much. I'm done with this now. I deleted all the duplicates, and hopefully I don't have to do this anymore. I think I learned what I wanted to learn, which is that they are close enough for my purposes, because all I care about is keeping my slow runs slow. That's the only reason for me to use the heart rate monitor. And then I guess maybe a little bit pacing for my races. Like for my marathon, I want to make sure that I'm pacing properly in the first half, which this really would have screwed me, I guess. Um, yeah, so for in that case, it's not really worth having the extra gear that you wear and um, all the chafing.